guys, if you're new to Deception Bites, hit the like and subscribe button and be sure to hit the bell to be notified of future videos. If you wish to support the channel, the links are in the description below. Now, fasten your seatbelt. Here we go. Okay guys, I'm back and it's Catterday and it's October 5th and it's 2:13 p.m. Eastern Time. Do you know where your cats are? I know where mine are. In the window behind me. That's where they belong. Okay, well, let's get started. I know I'm bringing this to you a lot earlier than I usually do, but I will be spending the rest of the day at the hospital, so I've kind of rushed to get everything ready so I could record early. All right, now, and there are, I did have a couple donations through coffee last night, but I'm going to leave those for my next video just because I'm going to need all the time that I have to get to the news. And thank you so much. You guys, we are not monetized and we have no ads whatsoever on here. No, sponsors or anything like that, except for you guys. So I do really appreciate your donations and so forth, your coffee money, your whatever. My Patreon supporters, I appreciate you very, very much. And it makes this possible. And it, helps me do what I do. So anyway, that's it for that. And I'm going to get into the news right now. And oh, I got to get rid of that picture. I don't know why I keep that tacked on there. All right, now we're going to start. I hope everyone is doing well. You're probably in shock seeing a video from me this early. And if I get home at a decent time tonight, I may do another video, but I don't want you waiting up for it in case, I know some people, some of my diehard listeners will wait for my videos until really late at night. And I don't want you to be waiting around, in case I am really late getting back from the hospital. But anyway, all right, let's go. Now, this I find, to say that I find it disconcerting would be an understatement. I'm a little bit probably incredulous because I can't believe that anyone is actually this dense. But Joe Biden promises Hunter Biden will join campaign despite Ukraine scandal. So this man is so used to getting a pass for everything he does that he just thinks that's okay that Hunter Biden, joins him. Of course, Hunter Biden is no more guilty than he is. I don't think Joe Biden is a cocaine addict, but other than that, they're both probably about equally guilty. So anyway, he's going to be joining the campaign trail. I'm sure that will really help him out. No. Former Vice President Joe Biden promised on Thursday that his youngest son, Hunter, will join the campaign trail even as his business dealings in Ukraine take center stage. Biden, who has refused to discuss his son's business ties to either Ukraine or China, made the pledge during an interview with the Reno Gazette-Journal during a campaign swing through Nevada. He's a fine man. He's been through hell, the former vice president said of his son before expressing he would soon be part of the campaign. The younger Biden has not appeared alongside his father in public in months. Initially, Hunter Biden was supposed to attend his father's campaign launch in late April, but those plans were squashed after Breitbart News reported on a 2016 incident in which a cocaine pipe was found in a car he rented in Arizona. Since then, Hunter Biden has kept a low profile apart from a June profile in the New Yorker magazine in which he discussed his shadowy business dealings and long-standing drug use. Hunter Biden's reemergence on the campaign coincides with heightened scrutiny over his role at Burisma Holdings, a Ukrainian oil and natural gas conglomerate, and it's intersected with his father's political influence. The controversy began when President Trump suggested the Ukrainian government look into Hunter Biden's business dealings in the country, as there are multiple red flags concerning conflicts of interest. In particular, the most prominent and perplexing concern is how and why Hunter Biden secured an appointment to Burisma's board of director, a position which purportedly paid as much as $83,000 per month in 2014. As Peter Schweizer, senior contributor at Breitbart News, detailed in his book, Secret Empires, How the American Political Class Hides Corruption and Enriches Family and Friends, Hunter Biden had no previous experience with either the energy industry or Ukraine before being tapped for the position. And of course, it was 2 months after he was kicked out of, I believe, the Navy for drug use. So, and it sounds to me that, when Biden says, oh, he's been through hell and is now asking him to join his campaign, which means that he will be paid out of his campaign funds, I am sure. It sounds to me like Joe Biden is a bit of an enabler. Okay, not a bit. He's an enabler. That's what I think. And he's probably coddled this guy his whole life. Anyway, he's quite evidently not able to achieve these big contracts and so forth on his own without his father's clout. So there you go. Now, the lack of experience coupled with the fact that Joe Biden at the time had just been made, the Obama administration's point man on Ukraine immediately raised questions from ethics watchdogs in both the U.S. and Europe. Adding to the ethical cloud surrounding the appointment is that at the time of Hunter Biden's appointment, the company founder, Mikola Zlochevsky, these names are really hard, they're tongue twisters, had his assets seized in Great Britain on suspicion of money laundering. Many believe Hunter Biden's position resulted from an attempt by Zlochevsky to carry favor with Western leaders to prevent further scrutiny of his business dealings. I have no doubt that that was what that was about. So I'm not going to go on to all of this because we know the rest of this. We know Hunter Biden's background. We know what he did wrong. We know about his ties to the Ukraine and to China and his father's dealings. So I'm going to go on from there, but I found it quite surprising. That's way understatement to find that Joe Biden is actually going to bring him on the campaign trail. I mean, he has no chance of winning anyway, but this, will cement his failure. Now, of course, it was cemented long ago. I don't think anybody in their right mind is going to vote for Biden. Maybe a few people, a very few, but I don't think that he will be in the race very long because I think it would be embarrassing to him as it was to Hillary to lose. And he will. All right, let's go on here and let's go back. Okay, now I'm going to leave this. It's about the fruiting in LV, Nevada. So I'm going to leave that because it's kind of out of sync with what we're covering here, but I will come back to that real soon. Possibly even tonight, but I'm not promising anything. All right, now, let's look at this. Not surprised about this either, given the state of Europe right now. Sweden, migrant who impregnated an 11-year-old twice, sentenced to only 3 years. Yeah. A military-aged migrant has been sentenced to 3 years in prison for repeatedly raping an 11-year-old and getting her pregnant twice. 11 years old. 11. In addition to the 3 years prison sentence, the Swedish court also ruled that the migrant would be able to return to Sweden after 10 years. I'm sure that makes the 11-year-old feel very safe. It wasn't until, the migrant who's in his 20s and whose nationality hasn't been released because his sexual relationship with the 11-year-old sometime during the summer of 2018, repeatedly sexually assaulting her throughout the summer, reports Nahidar Idad. It wasn't until a year later, in July of 2019, when the migrant was finally arrested by police. Last month, Swedish prosecutors charged the man with 4 counts of rape, 3 of which he was found guilty of. Throughout the time she was being raped, the child victim fell pregnant 2 times. Swedish media has not been able to determine whether any of the pregnancies were taken to term. However, SVT did report that forensics show that the rapist was the father. Despite the rapist denying having known the girl's age, the Blekinge District Court found the migrant guilty and sentenced him to 3 years in prison. Only 2 will be served. The court also ordered the migrant rapist to pay damages of 22,000 euros and expelled him from Sweden for 10 years. Big freaking deal. Big deal. And why do you think they're not telling the nationality of the or the background of this rapist? You and I both know what nationality and what ideology he subscribed to. I'm quite certain. So let's move on from there and go back here. And this is a little odd, and it's a couple days old now. Actually, it's 4 days old now, but I did want to bring this up. And I know we have people that listen in the Orlando area. So if you could give us an update from your perspective of what is going on with this. It says rising lakes threaten Orlando area community and nobody knows why it's happening. So I don't know, but it says at a glance, several lakes in the area are, and this is the Orlando area, and it's Gotha, Florida. So if you are a listener and you're around or from that region or are familiar with that region, maybe you pass through it to go to work or what have you, let us know in the comments, because I would really like to know about this and what is happening. Several lakes in the area are overflowing onto adjacent property. At least 3 residents have been forced out of their homes due to the flooding. It's not clear, and this is why I'm curious. It's not clear what's causing the water to rise. Now, that is what is of interest to me. Certainly, if it's been raining hard and there's flooding, there's no news there. But the fact that they're not sure what's causing this is a little disconcerting, most certainly for the people in that area. Paul Dehart and his wife bought what seemed like a dream home in 2017, situated on a 4.5-acre picturesque lakefront lot outside of Orlando, Florida. Even better for Florida, the home wasn't in a designated flood zone. 2 years later, the dream has turned into a nightmare as rising water from the lake inundates their land and moves dangerously close to their home and others in the neighborhood. DeHart estimates he's lost about 2 acres of his property to the water so far. Others had it worse. We have 2 neighbors right next to us that are underwater, and they've had to leave their homes, DeHart told weather.com Tuesday. A nearby resident affected by a different body of water that is also flooding has also had to move. And DeHart and his neighbors live in the small community of Gotha, Florida, about 11 miles west of downtown Orlando. Much of Central Florida is dotted with lakes and ponds, and Gotha is no different. DeHart estimates the water has risen about 15 feet on Lake Nally, adjacent to where his home sits, since he bought the property. Fisher Lake, also nearby, and 2 large ponds in the community have the same problem, he said. Photos posted to the Gotha Floods Facebook page. So I would assume that there are updates there on the Gotha Floods Facebook page. If you are a Facebook aficionado, I try to avoid Facebook as much as possible, but I do every now and then pop in. But yeah, so you can get updates there. But this is just a really odd thing. And it says it was set up by DeHart. It shows standing water in a home and the aftermath of flooding. Now, I feel bad for these people inside of Lake Nally home after flooding. And look at this, and I know my childhood home, the dam burst near my home, and it was, well, we have basements here. Almost everyone has a basement in Canada, in this part of Canada anyway. And the basement filled up right to the first floor. But, that had to be completely ripped out. And the smell and just the dampness, it wasn't good. So I know that once a home is flooded like that, the damage is enormous and the cost of repairing it is enormous. Anyway, it's not clear what's causing the water to rise or how to fix it. DeHart and others have a few theories, including runoff from nearby roadways and the construction of a new subdivision on land that was filled in and raised higher. Those issues and others were highlighted in an engineering report earlier this year. So I'm not going to get into this further and read the whole thing because I'm in a time crunch a bit. Possibly a lot. And I want to get to as much news as possible. But you can check out the Facebook page and I'll stay on top of this. But in the meantime, anybody in that area, please keep us informed. What do you think is causing this? Do you think it's any cause for concern? Do you think it'll spread to other areas? Whatever. I know that we do have listeners in Florida. So this is pertinent to them and of interest to the rest of us. All right. Now, let's go back. And here we go. Now, this by Hillary Clinton. Yes. Collective eye roll here would be great. If the impeachment provision in the Constitution of the United States will not reach the offenses charged here, then perhaps that 18th century Constitution should be abandoned to a 20th century paper shredder. Now, she is quoting Representative Barbara Johnson from 1974. Why do you suppose, and this is Barbara Johnson, why do you suppose she quoted that? Well, of course, it's quite transparent, if you ask me. She is suggesting that no, there's no reason to impeach Trump if we follow the rules and the laws set forth in the Constitution. But if this does not reach the offenses that they've charged against President Trump, if that's not covered, if there's not a way that they can include that and legally impeach him, she's saying, well, then do away with the Constitution. Let's shred it. Let's put it in a paper shredder. Yeah. The U.S. Constitution. How do you like that? Hillary Clinton wants to shred it. Now, what do you suppose, or where do you suppose we'd be if she were the president right now instead of Donald J. Trump? You got it. We'd be up the creek without a paddle. All right. So let's go on. And I want to cover this definitely. So let's get to that. I'll try to cover the most important ones first. So if we have time, I can go back and visit the other ones. Okay. Representative Tlaib, no joke. Democrats want to arrest Trump officials. Take care of them. Really? So she's saying that the Democrats want to arrest the Trump officials. What do you think she means by take care of them? Do you think that means that, they're going to go in and tuck them in bed at night and cook good food for them and read stories? I think she means they will kill them, have them killed. That's what I believe. Take care of them means. Or she could be just talking, well, we'll fire them all. I don't know what she means. But with her, there's no telling, because this woman is clearly a few fries short of a Happy Meal. Definitely. So let's play this.
So let me tell you, this is pretty, and this is the last caucus conversation we've had. Do you know this is really unprecedented? This is the first time we've ever had a situation like this. So they're trying to figure out, no joke.
And notice how she's smiling. She's delighted with it. This is the first time we've had a situation like this. Like, she's delighted, because do you really think that she is for America? I can assure you she isn't. And she is delighted by this. Delighted.
They're trying to figure out, well, is it the DC police that goes and gets them? No. Where do we hold them? I mean, this is the kind of, like, I'm not in those kinds of conversations, but I'm asking, like, what happens? And they're like, well, Rashida, we're trying to figure it out ourselves because this is uncharted territory. I'm sorry, I know, but no, I'm telling you that they're trying to be like, well, where are we going to put them? Where are we going to hold? No, I mean, those are the kinds of things they're trying to tread carefully. I mean, I'm like you all. I ask the same questions. Well, what happens when they don't comply? I mean, the fact of the matter is, we held Barr and Secretary Ross from Commerce, the Secretary of Commerce, in contempt. Well, what happens if they don't continue to not comply? And everybody's looking at each other. We're like, we haven't had this ever happen before. So I just want you to know I will relay your message. I will tell them they can hold off those people right here in Detroit. We'll take care of them. And make sure they show up to the committee hearings. We won't hurt them. Just make sure they come and show it, right? I'll make sure that you're in charge.
So she said, oh, we won't hurt them. So, but they're going to hold, she says, oh, we can hold them right here in Detroit. So she's laughing and joking away. She's having a grand old time. Yeah. Now, really, a real politician that is actually representing her constituents and, is elected to Congress because she cares. Now, a real politician would not be happy about this because, they're undoing the results of an election. They are going against the will of the American people. You can see poll after poll after poll. Nobody wants Trump impeached. Well, a few rabid dogs, but most people do not want Trump impeached because they realize the seriousness of it, and they also realize he hasn't done anything wrong. Like, look at the cities that the Democrats run and ask yourself, do you want the whole country like that? Really? Because that's exactly what would happen. What's happening in California would spread very quickly like a virus to the rest of the nation. And again, we have lots of listeners in California, and I don't want to make disparaging remarks about the people in California because there's a lot of good people that are trapped there that don't agree with what's going on. It's not all Californians, not at all. There are very good people there that may be trapped there because of their jobs or, they have homes that they have mortgages on, what have you, all their friends, whatever, that just can't pick up and leave. It's just not that easy. And I know that. I picked up from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and had to move home after my brother died tragically, and to see to my mother, who is elderly. So it's not that easy. It's not. Actually, moving that distance with 2 cats was a nightmare from the pit, let me tell you. All right, let's go back now. I don't want to get into chatting mode because I do want to cover this stuff. All right, this I think that you will find both disconcerting and fascinating, but not for a good reason. UK court rules biblical belief in 2 sexes incompatible with human dignity. How long do you think it's going to be before the Bible is banned for hate speech? How long do you think that's going to be? Honestly, I could see it happening very soon, very quickly. And I think what's holding it back in America is Trump and the other conservative Christians, and not just Christians. There are other people that are conservative that may not believe as the Christians believe. However, they do have a healthy respect for Judeo-Christian values. And, these are the people that are holding it back in America. But once that dam breaks, if we get the wrong person in, I can assure you. Now, I could see somebody like Obama, who's already served 2 terms, so hopefully we won't hear from him again. But, I could see somebody like Obama banning it for hate speech. I could definitely see somebody like Rashida or Ilhan Omar or, you know, Pelosi for all, well, we'll pray. And do you really think that woman prays? Well, if you believe that, I've got some land to sell you. Way, way, way up north. Yeah. Okay. So, a British employment tribunal has ruled that a Christian doctor's biblical understanding, sorry, my back is itchy for some reason, a Christian doctor's biblical understanding of sexuality and lack of belief in transgenderism is incompatible with human dignity. So this Christian doctor, well, he's Christian and he's a doctor, so he is being forced, but I bet you if this person was a Muslim, that would be okay. They'd be able to believe that, but not a Christian. After being fired from his job in 2018 for refusing to use pronouns that do not correspond to a person's biological sex, disability assessor Dr. David McCumber filed a complaint against the Department of Work and Pensions for harassment and discrimination under the Equality Act. In its decision this week, the panel declared that Dr. McCumber's biblical belief that God made humans male or female was incompatible with human dignity. The tribunal ruled explicitly on 3 positions taken by Dr. McCumber that made him unable in good conscience to address a person if they were a member of the opposite sex. The court referred to McCumber's belief in Genesis 1:27, a passage from the Bible that states, "So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them." And that's what we've had for all these centuries until we've got into this. The last maybe, couple decades? I don't know. It hasn't been around that long. Anyway, second, the court cited the doctor's lack of belief in transgenderism since he refuses to accept that it is possible for a person to change their sex. Well, it isn't possible. Because if you draw a blood test on that person and look at their DNA and everything, biologically, they'll still be whatever gender they were born. You can't change on a biochemical basis your sexuality. I could say that, gee, I want to be a man and get my breasts removed and, whatever women do to become men. I don't know. I have no desire to be a man. I think that men are doing a fine job of being men. Well, most of them. Some of them. Maybe not some of the social justice warrior snowflakes, but I digress. So anyway, you cannot change on a biochemical level, and biologically, you cannot change your gender. It is ridiculous. So, and I'm not saying, if somebody wants to live as a man or a woman or whatever, if they're born an opposite sex, well, that's fine. That is their decision. I may not agree with it, but that is their legal right, and they can do as they wish. But to actually state that they are now a female or male or the opposite sex, really, they may look it physically on the outside, but at the biochemical level, they are not. Anyway, so unbelievable. Anyway, finally, the tribunal referenced Macker's conscious objection to transgenderism and his belief that it would be irresponsible and dishonest for a health professional to accommodate or even encourage a patient's impersonation of the opposite sex. The tribunal determined that Dr. Macker's 3 beliefs are not protected because they are incompatible with human dignity and conflict with the fundamental rights of others, specifically here, transgender individuals. Irrespective of our determination above, all 3 heads believe in Genesis 1:27. Lack of belief in all 3 heads belief in Genesis 1:27, lack of belief in transgenderism, and conscientious objection to transgenderism in our judgment are incompatible with human dignity and conflict with the fundamental rights of others, specifically here, transgender individuals. So apparently, the Bible goes against human dignity. So I ask you again, how long will it be before it is banned for hate speech? Possibly not long. The ruling suggests that belief in Genesis 1:27, okay, well, that's just reiterating what we just read. In a response to the ruling, Dr. Makareth said he feels obliged to appeal. I believe that I have to appeal in order to fight for the freedom of Christians to speak the truth, he said. If they cannot, then freedom of speech has died in this country, with serious ramifications for the practice of medicine in the UK. No doctor or researcher or philosopher can demonstrate or prove that a person can change sex, he added. Without intellectual and moral integrity, medicine cannot function, and my 30 years as a doctor are now considered irrelevant compared to the risk that someone else might be offended. You know, and people have a choice, right? If they don't want to go to this doctor, they don't have to. They can go to another doctor. Okay, well, you've got that. And I felt that that was important just because it made me question how long it's going to be before the Bible is outlawed. Really. Many people consider it hate speech, believe it or not. Now, I'm going to take a look at this, but I can't remember what it is. So we may leave this, but let me just take a boo at it.
Bad guy was taken out?
Oh, yes.
He decides to...
This is 3 minutes and 14 seconds, but I think it is imperative listening because Glenn Beck, it says Glenn Beck reveals bombshell audio from Ukraine that repudiates impeachment narrative. So let's listen to this because it is 3 minutes well spent. And I do want to call out whose video this is, Blaze TV. So this, of course, that is Glenn Beck's. I doubt that he would mind if we played this because I think he wants to get it disseminated. But I just wanted to give proper credits there. So let's take a listen to what Glenn Beck has to say here. Pretty riveting stuff.
In April, former Prosecutor General Lusenko, the good guy, remember, that came in after the bad guy was taken out? He decides to give an interview with Ukrainian media. And in that interview, he makes a stunning comment. Quote, I don't know how, but the Americans got an audio recording of Mr., how do you say his name? Sitnik, of his conversation. Now, that's the guy who ran the Anti-Corruption Bureau. He was resting with his family and friends now and discussing how he'd like to help Hillary. So the guy who was in charge of the anti-corruption, they caught him on tape talking about how he'd like to. Well, let me play it for you. Now, this is the first time, strange because it's been out in the newspapers in Ukraine. This is the first time that we know of that this has been translated by anyone in the media in English. I just want you to listen. Now, the speaker you're going to hear is Director Sitnik, and this is what he said. Listen.
Я думаю, что да. Я ж ему тоже помогу. Не ему, а Хиллари помогла.
Тоді ви там трошки шатнули, да?
Я тут так пишуть там.
Ну, мені кажется, Хиллари погано було, не дуже.
Clinton Foundation.
Ну, я наскільки пам'ятаю, ви говорили, що для нас навіть не було близько Хиллари.
Ні, Трамп же ж ніяк. Він чисто, у нього внутрішні питання домінують над зовнішніми. А Хіларі це, це із тих політиків, що вони гегемонія в Америці і в світі. Для нас це так лучше. А для американців лучше так, це те, що Трамп робить.
На зараз ці американські стосовці, це баба, мабуть.
Ми ж прилюдно питання про Манафорта, якого посадили. Манафорт був керівник цього виборчого штабу Трампу. Я ж тоді це оскорнив, зараз в тому числі за те, що проголосували початку бухгалтерію, посадили там, що 80 років позбавлювали. Трам по барабану, тому що система працює чітко. І коли це були вибори, за неділю до виборів, FBI поновив розслідування відносно Хіллері. Не рейтинг упав на 7%, і Трамп на тяжкою перемогу. Я тоді не можу зрозуміти, що Трамп воює з FBI, і кажуть, що його доганяють. Якби не FBI, то він не був президентом. Вони Хіллері погасили рейтинг на 7%.
Wow, that seems pretty kind of wow.
Pretty wow is an understatement. Now, sorry. I know you don't want to hear me chewing a candy.
Or Terrence or Candace.
Now,
you're all special people.
If you want to check that out for yourself, because I know some of you are on a tiny phone, and I thought about that and tried to make it bigger for you guys. But if you want to check that out for yourself, go to Blaze TV on YouTube, and you will find it. Now, let's go back and get into the rest. Now, this is interesting. I wanted to make sure we get to this as well. Trump administration asks for comments on child sex trafficking in foster care system. Now, this came out yesterday and was updated today, so this is fresh. Washington, the Trump administration's Department of Health and Human Services is putting out a call for whistleblowers and concerned citizens to come forward to discuss child sex trafficking in the foster care system. Remember, when they tampered with that paper saying that it had to be firsthand knowledge, well, they were not thinking that, gee, this goes both ways. It goes both ways. Because if they can do it on just secondhand information and hearsay and rumors, well then, so can the other side. So they are putting the call out to people that have knowledge of child sex trafficking in the foster care system to come forward. The National Advisory Committee on the Sex Trafficking of Children and Youth in the United States has discussed vulnerabilities of children and youth who have interacted with foster care system and is working on recommendations for professionals in these settings. We encourage everyone with specific ideas or recommendations to submit them in writing for the members' consideration. And there is a link here, and I think I will copy that and put it in the video so that you are aware of it in case you do have knowledge. And I'm sure some of you out there actually do have knowledge. So I'm going to go over here and paste this at the top before I forget about it so that you guys will have it. All right, now let's go back here. Where were we? Right here. The committee exclusively told the Epoch Times on Friday, October 4th, the day the committee held a public meeting on ways to combat child sex trafficking. If you have comments for the committee, contact A. Donald at NHTTAC. I better copy that too, because we want to be as proactive as we can on this. At least I do. And I'm sure you do too. All right. And so there you go. Those are the two ways that you can get your information out there. If you have knowledge, whether it's firsthand, secondhand, hearsay, rumor, whatever. Now, I mean, don't be ridiculous. I mean, if you just heard from somebody who heard it from somebody else who heard it from somebody's best friend's uncle, then yeah. But I'm talking, there's a lot of people that have firsthand knowledge of this out there. And I can just about guarantee you, because of the amount of listeners that this channel has, that some, if not many, of you have experienced this. So the committee, or know somebody that has. The committee held its meeting in Alexandria, Virginia on the same day that parents staged a rally in the California state capitol in Sacramento to speak out against Child Protective Services, alleging widespread abuse and corruption in the CPS system. The Epoch Times reported that the Adoption and Safe Families Act, spearheaded by Hillary Clinton and signed into law in 1997 by her husband, President Bill Clinton, created a program by which the federal government sends incentive checks to states for each child adopted out of foster care, with mandatory adoptions occurring when a child has been in foster care for 15 of the past 22 months. The state of California, which officially labels all missing foster care children as runaways, has been rocked by allegations of child sex abuse in the Contra Costa County foster care system. The State Department in 2019 human trafficking report stated that in the United States, traffickers prey upon children in the foster care system. President Donald Trump's Family First Prevention and Services Act, which eliminates some financial incentives for removing children from their biological families, went into effect on October 1st, but some advocates say the law does not go far enough. Public comments already started flowing in ahead of Friday's meeting. And as an advocate for families and children, financial incentives pose a big problem to the already broken family court system and their unethical practices, citizen Amy Betts said in a public comment published by HHS. Jurisdiction as defined is not followed by these state-run family courts, including that they violate rights daily through use of their unethical and fraudulent activities that they currently use to incentivize the state and its funding. Children are taken from fit families, including through fraudulent orders by the state-run family courts. Now, we know that to be true. Through the use of Hague conventions stated in the fraudulent orders being created, these courts take and keep children from their families, putting them in worse situations than they were taken from. Many of these children run away and have issues stemming from the abuses that have been created by these family courts, who, through the assistance of DHHS, CPS, and other state-run agencies, power goes unchecked, and children and families' lives are destroyed. This is where the majority of your trafficking victims come from. When wrongdoing is proven by way of these state courts and administrative agencies, there is no recourse for the victims. Reform the state-run family courts, stop incentivizing the state and these agencies through taking children and placing them in foster care and adopted homes. Assistance must be to the biological families, and abusers must be held accountable. Counseling and forgiveness will not change the actions of those causing harm. That is true. You can do all the counseling you want. If a child has been sexually assaulted in a foster home, that damage is there for life. Now, it may get better, and in time, like any wound, it heals, but there's still that scar there. So, without accountability, the users understand that they get to continue with what they're doing and learn new ways to hide behind the law and continue with their fraudulent practices. There are many families, including children, that suffer, Beth stated in her comment. Our agencies and our foster care system have shown the wide range. Sorry, my cat is trying to chew the wire on my webcam. All right. Our agencies and our foster care system has shown the wide range of outcomes for children in foster care, stated citizen Devra Waterman and others who submitted the same letter calling for teenagers in foster care to be allowed to return to their families if they wish. For those who struggle to find a safe place within the system, their outcomes are dismal. Homelessness, joblessness, drug use, prostitution, and without family reunification, lacking any support when they age out of foster care, many adoptive and foster children do not find a permanent place with their adoptive or foster parents. Often the relationship ends when they age out of the system. And imagine these children age out of the system. They're alienated from their parents and their entire family, their grandparents, their siblings, everything. So I imagine how lost they feel. says, I ask you not to wait. I ask you to implement this simple policy to allow older children subjected to foster care to be able to request and voice their desire to return to the safe family member with support from state agencies to provide the reunification for families nationwide while reducing the number of runaways and sex-trafficked foster kids, Waterman and others said. So this is good, and I am going to put those links in the comments so you can keep an eye out for that, but don't do it literally because that could be painful. All right, now let's see what else we have here. Time is ticking. Now, we looked at this, and I think there's some other things here. Now, I'm not going to get into this because there isn't much information here, but Bernie Sanders has had a heart attack. The doctors have confirmed that. So I don't know what the implications of that are, but he has had a heart attack. And this is interesting as well, and there are a lot of alternative media sources talking about this because they say that troops are being mobilized for a domestic disturbance of some sort around the states. So something big must be coming, says the Marine Corps issued an order on October 3rd calling up reserves to assist civil authorities, that would be the police and whatnot. It was listed on the USMC website. Seems like it's for domestic deployment. I found out by watching Texas News Studio last night. And this is by JDog2K7. Now, I've heard this also from Marfoogle News. I've heard it from, I think it was Marfoogle News, if I'm not mistaken, that I heard it. And SGT Report was talking about it as well. And there were others that I didn't actually view, but I saw that they were discussing this. So I am wondering what is going to be happening that they need to call up the reserves. And it seems like this is, a domestic deployment. So what's happening? They don't just call up the reserves willy-nilly. So something's going on. And let me look at this. Yeah, I'm not going to, I don't know how far to get into this, but Microsoft used machine learning to make a bot that comments on news articles for some reason. Well, what do you think that reason would be? I think it's for the 2020 election. Why would they want to make a bot that responds to news articles? Probably because if it's something positive about Trump, they want to make sure that they swing that back to the acceptable narrative. So they're making these bots so the algorithm automatically reads and digests new articles and posts comments alongside humans. So you will not know when you are reading an article and you read the comments, you will not know, although I think you may suspect, because I can assure you that those comments will be very left-leaning, but you won't really know who is a bot and who isn't. Except that the really far out ones and, will lean far left. I'm sure the bots will. All right. Now, this is extremely disconcerting because this is election tampering, if you ask me. Now, they're not coming right out and saying, oh, this is for the election, but why else would they do it? Why else? Not just for the election, but to keep the narrative on task, because we want everything that the public believes to be false. That's what they want, really. The social internet has a bot problem. Fake accounts plague Twitter and Facebook, and content designed to misinform readers has become an issue that's drawn the attention of Congress. This difficult and growing problem hasn't stopped a team of researchers from creating an algorithm that can parse news stories, then bicker with real humans in the comments section. Now, I'm just asking you, what is gained by that? If they are not trying to censor free speech, if they are not trying to steer the narrative, why would you invent a bot with that ability? Just saying. Engineers at Beihang University and Microsoft China, well, there you go, coming out of China, developed a bot that reads and comments on online news articles. They call their model DeepCom. Well, isn't that appropriate? That's very appropriate. DeepCom. Short for deep commenter. Sure it is. Sure, that's what it's short for. The full model code is available as open source on GitHub, meaning that those with the necessary programming knowledge can already use it. Well, I'm sure there's a lot of computer experts out there, more now than ever. So I'm sure it's already in use. According to the research, the system is made up of two neural networks, a reading network that comprehends an article and picks out important points, and a generation network that writes a comment based on those points and the title of the article. The system is based on how humans typically consume news online. We're likely to read the headline, take away a few key points, and write a comment based on the points that are most interesting to us, or support or contest them based on our own personal views. DeepCom does the same thing, but automatically, and its creators intend for it to be used to encourage human commentary on articles to drive more people to read them and engage with the content. Oh, right. Right. I'm sure it's completely harmless. They did it to help us. They're concerned. They want us to understand what the articles are really saying. There are two versions of DeepCom paper online. Of the DeepCom paper online, one was published to the ARXIV preprint server on September 26th and another on October 1st. The earlier version of the paper cites a potential use for DeepCom and comment sections in general, encouraging users to browse the comment stream to share new information and to debate with one another. With the prevalence of online news articles with comments, it is of great interest to build an automatic news commenting system with data-driven approaches. How about this? How about you just write good, well-written, factual news articles, and the commenting will take care of itself? No, they don't want to do that. I don't even think there are editors reading 90% of what these, online news sources put out. I don't, because I find mistakes, glaring mistakes in them all the time. What has happened? Have they done away with all editors? And now, because they're so poorly written, they have to have DeepCom tell the people what's important in the comment section. Right. Why don't they just hold our hands while we go to the bathroom? I mean, really? I don't know. Are we going to deteriorate to the point where we can't even get dressed ourselves and feed ourselves? Because really, the dumbing down of America and Canada and the world has worked. All right, so this statement is left out of the newer version. In its place, the researchers write that they realize there may be risks involved with an AI that pretends to be human and comments on news stories. Oh, really? Risks? No. The example they give in the paper is very benign. After reading a news article about FIFA rankings, DeepCom sends two comments. One says, if it's heavily based on the 2018 WC, hence England leaping up the rankings, how are Brazil at 3? It should be, how is Brazil at 3? No editors. There's no editors anymore. The other comments, England above Spain, Portugal, and Germany, interesting. So apparently, if this is what was written by DeepCom, I guess you'll be able to tell the comments because of the poor grammar. Oh, wait, no, you won't. Over the past few years, fake accounts and botnets, interconnected system of bots working together, have become an epidemic for social media platforms like Twitter and Facebook. On Twitter, fake accounts with stock image profile photos ran rampant, following each other in the hundreds of thousands and tweeting political propaganda. In May, Facebook removed 2 billion fake accounts, thousands of which were pushing political views and disinformation. Yeah, they were conservative. Why don't they just come out and say they were conservative? Yeah, that's the ones that were removed. A spokesperson for Microsoft's research team told Motherboard that the team addresses the risks in the paper, but in the last version of that paper from October 1st, the most that it acknowledged about risks is that they exist, not what the researchers plan to do to avoid potential harms caused by fake commenters. So I'm not going to go on and read this because it's long, and we only have so much time. So I want to get to all of the things that I find important and that I think you will probably find important, and I don't think I will be able to because of the time. In fact, I think I'm going to have to wrap it up because I need to get this uploaded and out the door by 3:30, and it is now 3:07. So what I'm going to do is, I like this too. I just want to read this real quick by Cat Turd. And I love me some Cat Turd. Dear communist, low IQ Democrats, it doesn't matter if you have a million whistleblowers about the Ukraine phone call. We have the actual transcript of the call. They're just adding on more whistleblowers about this call when everybody knows what it said. Everybody knows what Trump said and what he didn't say. Well, those that want to know. Those that just hear the talking points parroted to them by the mainstream news media, regurgitated is what they do. They just regurgitate their talking points. Then I guess they don't. But anyway, now I'm going to wrap it up there. And I'm going to tell you that I will try to do another short video tonight, but I can't offer any promises. So you will just have to see. I will try to put a comment on my on the channel to let you know if I am not recording another one, or if I am, I will let you know so that you're not hanging around wondering. All right. Well, thank you so much, guys. I appreciate you all. And I am, well, look, I have a cat behind me, my fine feline furry friend, Xander. Now, I'll get my head out of the way. Oh, no, he's facing the wrong direction. Okay, well, I'm going to sign off for now. Stay safe, stay blessed, and keep seeking the truth. I'll see you soon.